Okay. All right. Bear with me. I'm really new to this.
How do you find out if anybody's there?
There's a couple people writing.
Okay. You want me to post them?
Okay.
You can post it to patrons only.
Hold on. Let me get the channel. Okay, that. I spelled it Brook Drumm L live, and then I was embarrassed, so I deleted it. Hello from France. That's awesome. What's hilarious is I don't even know how to find my own live stream. So
Somebody needs to send you the chat.
hang in there, and when I find the freaking chat room, okay. Okay, Margie, I'm going to email this or text this to you. I'm going to go there.
Do they hear you?
Oh yeah, they hear you too.
Oh, whoops.
All right, there's the link.
How do I copy that?
Now you can click on it. Okay. Yes.
Okay, but now I have
Okay.
This is happening right now.
Okay.
And I have
This is
chat.
happening right now.
Oh, and I have feedback. Ah, crap. Okay, now I don't. Okay, testing. Chat. Yes. Thank you guys for being here. Oh, mama. You guys are commenting quickly. So these must be, how do I even do this? I'm totally new to this. So if I read the chat, I visited my son's school today.
Okay, and what am I?
Lincoln High School, Zebras. So, Margie, I sent you the, my wife's over here. I sent you the link.
Yeah, but so do
You just click on it. Just click on it.
Post saying to
No, they all
follow
know.
your patrons?
No, they all know it's here, but do you want to tweet it for me?
No, they don't know it's there. The patrons don't know where to find you.
So how did you guys find out about this? Tell me where you got info about this live stream.
I can go post a post.
Here, I'll ask you. Do you see the chat yet, Margie?
No. What do you mean? Oh, I have to click on it? Let me see.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to make a post at the same time, so. Oh, weird. Yeah, there you are. Holy
Okay, YouTube notifications, sub.
Okay, YouTube. Oh,
Hey,
now.
hey, hit mute on that.
Yeah, sorry.
We are total amateurs right now. This is awesome. So welcome, guys. Thank you for being here. Technically, this is my first, it's not exactly a coming out party, but at least I've come out of the shadows and I'm online. So give me just a second. I'm going to be here for a while. Let me get up to speed on all of this. I'll start answering questions. So if you have a question that you'd like me to answer, you can ask it. So it looks like all these guys are YouTubers. So why don't we post, Margie, post the link. Margie's my wife.
Can I post it on your Patreon page?
Post it on Patreon. Post it on.
Okay. And all I did was put that link. Will that work?
Yes. Post it on Patreon and post it on Twitter. That'd be great. So how are y'all? Let's see. So I guess I ask a question and you answer. I'm reading the comments here in YouTube as they come through. All right, I'll answer Rumi Salvador.
I don't know if that worked. We'll see.
Okay, everything you say is going to come through. So just saying.
Sorry.
You might want to put on some headphones so you know what's coming through and you make sure my audio is good. So how am I doing? How's Brooke doing? Well, it's been. Excuse me. Headphones, iPhone headphones. You can grab mine. So I've been over 2 months now off of, we closed down Printerbot 2 months ago. I did a podcast that I will be releasing very soon that tells the whole story. But in short, I'm doing fine. Heartbreaking to close down a business, but of course, you got to keep going. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep going. So doing okay. I've been doing Patreon, and if you want to sponsor me, it's patreon.com/Brook Drumm. So that's my plug for the show. Forgive me if I say that a few times. There'll be some new people showing up later, but what I'm doing is posting content, and I'll wait a little bit until people show up and we get our tweet out about this broadcast on Patreon and on Twitter. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do with patreon.com, but essentially I'm making content for makers, for anybody that wants to watch. And then you can go, it's kind of like a tip jar. So you can put in, if you want to support what I'm doing, it's patreon.com/Brook Drumm. So thank you, Rumi. I am doing well. You need a machinist out of work trying to get something going. Well, I too am out of work. So no, I don't need a machinist. I'll be doing my own machining. So good luck. I can relate. BC Strings 1. So yeah, what is it? Stas Wright says Discord. So you found out about this through Discord. I'm still trying to figure out how all these dots connect. I've been calling people to find out what is this Patreon thing all about and how do I work the tubes. Talked with Joel Telling today. What a great guy. If you haven't followed Joel Telling on his 3D Printing Nerd channel, he's fantastic. But we had a great talk today, and he gave me some tips on, I just got to, it's a slog, really. You just have to make content and keep making content. I asked him, how many videos do you have, Joel? He said, like 768 videos, which I was like, whew, that's a lot of videos. So I have a lot through Printerbot, but none yet through Patreon, so that's what I'll be getting to. Oh, so Twitter did inform. Oh, Twitter must be connected to YouTube.
No, I just tweeted it.
No, I asked, I don't know where the timestamp is on this stuff. Let me see.
I got a hi.
Yeah, you can say hi to Margie if you want. She's... That's my wife. Okay, you're not on there anymore. All right, I'll keep reading down through these. So if you have a question, ask, because this is going to be pretty boring if you don't have any questions. Here's one. For an aspiring industrial printer designer, what advice would you have for launching a project? John, an aspiring industrial printer designer, so are you designing actual printers, like 3D printers? Let's assume that you are. I actually got a chance to, I'll tell you a quick story. I got a chance to talk to a young man over in the UK the other day and his new CEO, and he's won an award. He won #1, I think it was called Plybot, and he won an engineering award, #1 in the UK for this engineering award. on this Scara printer that he made. And so he's just starting out, kind of reminded me of myself back in, okay, I see that, John. Yes, I have a great design, but I don't know much about how to get my printer out there. So anyway, this guy, I'll try to answer that, John. He was starting from scratch. And what's great about young people is they have no idea. I'm 47. They have no idea what they don't know. So, my advice is always to everyone that's designing anything is you have to design constantly. So my particular style was to create something as simply as possible and build it. So I design and build. And so when you build it, even though like Brian, who was my engineer for a while, he thought, well, no, you design it in 3D so you don't have to build it 20 times. But that doesn't work in the real world. You have to design something and then build it. Now, if you're awesome, yeah, the first time you build it, it'll work just fine, right? But you have to design and then build it and and then you have to use it and see what's wrong with it, because there will always be something wrong with it. There's always something that you can improve. So you just have to kind of draw the line, like how perfect does it need to be before I get it to market? If it was an open source project, although somewhat problematic sometimes, like in my Kickstarter, when I did the original, I put a picture of it, or I think Who's a What's It actually asked me for the design, or he looked on the videos, and he basically just designed his own and sort of, I call it ripped off, even though it wasn't really stolen, it was recreated. But if you let your design out there before you're ready for people to take it, make it their own, change it, steal your idea, whatever you want to call it, don't put it out there before you're ready for the public to have it, and they may do crazy things to it. That can be fun if you say, hey, here's the design, what do you think? And then you're going to change stuff. But whenever you say it's done, then you can release it to market. But what I would do internally was I would design something and then I would hand it off to like a junior engineer, and he would take my messy file structure in Fusion 360. He'd clean it up. He would put the hardware in. His name is Mark. And Steve did it for a while too. And he would clean up the structure. He would fix little, I'm fast and loose with my design. He would go in and like perfectly place things, get everything named properly, make sure that, anybody could open up that file and then like, oh, here's what's going on. Here's how everything works. It's in sub-assemblies. But once you get it finished and you make it and you know that it's good, how do you get it out there in the public? I don't know that I would recommend Kickstarter anymore. It's kind of been, I don't know, over the years, it used to be all the rage, and now it's kind of just like a marketing engine for products, that are out there. But you have to be involved in a community. So if it's a RepRap, get involved in the RepRap community. If it's a 3D printer, find people that talk about 3D printing on YouTube, or tell people about the design so that others are talking about it. In today's day and age, when you're doing, social media and things online, yeah, it's free, but what is your true reach? There's all this nomenclature that goes along with, or vernacular that goes along with social media. And honestly, word of mouth is the best thing ever. So find some guys that are local, that are 3D printer enthusiasts, get them the printer, let them use it, get their feedback. If they like it, they'll tell others. And then you just have to start telling people about it and hope that it gains momentum. So I do find that the 3D printing communities, you can make a splash. There's several guys that, like Nicholas Seward has built a name for himself. Great guy, fantastic designer. He builds really edge designs, and they're so wild and sometimes weird that people are like, whoa, that's awesome. What was that one? The dice printer? That one got a big following. So they just showed up on social media, and people were like, wow, 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 and they reshare it. So if it doesn't stand out, if it's not something special, it may not enjoy that following. Mine was released on Kickstarter, went big at a time when there was nobody doing this, very, very few people. So, I was early, and that was my advantage. I often wonder if I released today, I probably would just be a nobody, but it was the timing. So anyway, that was kind of long. You're laughing at me already? If there's a, what's the story of PrinterBot Small? I love that machine so much. When I heard about it, I wanted to buy one. It was already stopped. So there was a period of time at which this is a little bit of inside baseball, but I'll be quick. We did the simple metal, and I wanted to follow it up with something. It took me a very long time to decide what to follow that up with. I also had the Play that had been out for a while, and I wanted to follow that up with something. The Plus, I wasn't sure it needed a follow-up because it didn't sell big. Before I could figure out how to follow up the Simple Metal and get that Simple Pro to market, I decided, and it might have actually soft launched, but I thought, well, maybe it's the price point that was hurting the sales of the Simple Pro. So I decided, you know what, I want to do one based off of the existing hardware that I have in the shop and that is more of a rep wrap. But not a rep wrap with round bars, a rep wrap. Well, I did the Smalls with round bars, and then I followed it up immediately with the Smalls LE. And so those were great little bots. We made them all in-house. It was the first printer since Kickstarter that we made everything in-house. And it was actually a lot of work to make in-house, and I didn't have an unlimited amount of parts. I had just a bunch of these bars sitting on the shelf, and I thought, well, what can I make with these? You know, I had these parts. So I did that for a while, and to be honest, they didn't sell really well, but they had a loyal following. So it was a small audience. It was fun. I love that. I think the Smalls LE is one of my most beautiful designs, actually. That is a really solid printer. I have some parts out in the garage of those. Somebody could probably talk me out of those. But anyway, the story was, it was kind of a sideline that I did while I was waiting for a bigger move with a new printer. And it appealed to a certain audience price point. You know, when you sell things, there's all these tiers of pricing, and, you know, I mean, you guys answer me here. Get on your text there and answer me. How much would you spend on a 3D printer? Give me an amount. What is the sweet spot for a 3D printer? I'm waiting on you to answer. I will wait here until I get some answers.
You got a couple of your Patreon people join you.
Hey, I got some Patreon folks here. A shout out to my patrons. You guys are awesome. You make this possible. Eventually, I'll figure out how to just make this a Patreon live stream. But I kind of desperately was like swinging for the fences, trying to just get live.
Lots of amounts,
So I got 1,000, 2,000, 600 pounds, whatever that is. That's 200 to 350, 500, 200 to 250, a toy to you. That's fine. So exactly. So that's the problem. So when you go to sell a printer, what printer should you design? You have to decide your audience before you design it, because, you know, you design it with parts. So how much do those parts cost? How much profit do you want to make on it? Is it just an open source project? You're publishing plans? Believe me, it's pretty painful to have people have to order every single part. You know, if you design a printer and say, I'm helping the world and putting it out there, very few people are going to order all 752 parts from 3 different, you know, Amazon and AliExpress and the hardware store or Home Depot or whatever. That's a lot of trouble. So making a kit is kind of nice, but believe me, there's a lot of trouble involved. You have to source everything. So you paid for everything up front. Now I got all of my cash wrapped up in 100 kits here, and I hope they sell. Well, they may not sell. So with the Smalls, I had all the parts on the shelf and in my shop. I knew I could kit them up as the orders come in, water jet the parts, print the parts, do what I needed to do. And I released the print files. People didn't want to print them. They wanted me to print them for them. So, you know, it was one of those things with the Smalls. So yeah, I'm not surprised. 200, 300, 600, 1,000, 2,000. Everybody has a different sweet spot. Everybody has a different reason they're getting into 3D printing. So it's impossible to make the printer for everybody. Maybe someday there'll be a $200 printer that actually works awesome. with the like a really good user experience and it just works every time. It never breaks down, but we're not there yet. 3 to 500 is a good budget range. I like that. Again, hard to hit.
There's a question about any plans to sell the NOS kits again? What is that?
NOS. Where is that question?
It's one of your patrons, actually, Vishal.
Am I getting everyone? What's his name?
Vishal? I'm not sure if I'm saying it right.
Oh, there it is. Any plans to sell the NOS kits again since the metal died still does since the metal does still exist? Is there a plan to get the batch out? Oh, you're talking about are you Vishal? I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name there. You asked about the metal. Do you mean the simple metal or the simple pro? So let me tell you what's happening with the stuff that I can make and the stuff that I don't know if I own. So as a CEO of a company, I have a lot of parts in my garage because over the years I got a big collection, so I can do work in my garage. Some of those parts were damaged parts at the factory, so you can't resell them. It's too expensive to refurbish these parts. I tried that, like, sandblast the powder coating off and then repowder coat it or sand it. Very expensive. So there's a lot of parts that were damaged, can't be used for anything else. I have a bunch of those random parts here. I could probably build dozens of printers with some of them. I'm not a hoarder per se, but at least when I know that, well, I could build a printer out of that and it's got some scratches on it, but who cares? Or like one of the holes is stripped, I can like fix that. So pristine new printers, those virgin folded metal pieces for the Simple Pro, there's hundreds of those at the old shop, and I don't own that stuff anymore. The bank owns that stuff. I went bankrupt. Printabot went bankrupt, and we're still in those legal proceedings. Chase held all of the loans, and they haven't responded to the calls of the lawyer. So they might abandon that stuff, and I'll just walk in and put it in my truck and drive home. Or they may try to sell it at auction, or it may be thrown into the trash. And if I knew where that trash was, I would dumpster dive and get it. But really, we don't know what's going to happen with some of that stuff. So I can't get everything, but I have some stuff. So anyway, the metal designs do exist. They all are open source. I'm willing to share those with anyone. Amazon did me a big favor. Not a big favor, a big disservice. They had a bunch of Simple Pros. When the market took a dive, those were a $700 printer. And now, the hot sellers are $200. So they took the price of the Simple Metal, and I saw it yesterday for like $324. I'm sorry, the Simple Pro. So if I were to get those parts back, I couldn't sell them for more than $324 and at that point, it's not really worth it. So the printers that I've had people ask, like, hey, can you give me a printer belt? Well, I have like 2 in a box, that I never put together. Whatever I have, I'm willing to sell, but it's not a business. It's just a guy giving away printers or whatever they want to send me PayPal or whatever. But so right now I can't start a business I can't start a new business with a new printer bot. I couldn't do that if I wanted to. Until all of this legal stuff is over. So I'm in this waiting period to find out when is this gonna be over, and I'll find out if Chase is gonna sue me, whatever. So somebody said it was over $1,200 on Amazon. I don't think that's right.
Maybe today.
Thanks for the advice. Printabot makers. Some of this I don't understand. This is going by really fast. Oh, these are still answers to what would you spend. Okay, I got it. It does depend on the feature set, but again, I'm looking at answers here in the chat room on what would you spend on a 3D printer. Part of this is, I'm just curious, part of it is if I did do another printer, and this is, here in a second, I'll tell y'all what I'm going to do with my patron content. By the way, in the future, these live streams are intended for only patron backers. So while I'm streaming live today, it's because I didn't know what to do with Discord or the live stream anyway. I guess I could do a YouTube stream, but do a private one. But anyway, so today is a freebie, but in the future, I'm not going to be sitting in front of my computer in my living room. I'll be out in my garage, in my workshop, and I will be doing projects. And so it's the patrons at patreon.com/Brook Drumm, little plug there, that will get the benefit of the live streams and the videos that I'm going to edit and release. Eventually, over time, I'll release the plans to the things that I'm building. Maybe the same day of the video. It depends on how big the project is. But so at Patreon, I'm doing a podcast weekly that hasn't launched yet. I kind of half launched it and then realized I chose the wrong name, changed the name, relaunched it. For the Patreon listeners, they can listen to that now, but I'll be posting that in iTunes and on brookdrum.com. It's no website yet. There's like one page. brookdrum.com. So if you want to check up on my podcast, the first episode of the podcast, by the way, was my roommate in college interviews me and tells the whole story of what happened, some retelling of the early Printabout stories. So there'll be a weekly podcast. I interviewed Max Lebowski from Formlabs this week. So that'll be the next podcast. Me and Max just chat. No big earth-shaking news, but it's fun to hear Max and hear what he's doing, tell a little bit of his story. Bree Pettis is on the calendar for 1st of November? The 5th of November, I'll record that one. I've got several guys lined up for that podcast, but there's one a week. And this all launches officially in November, by the way. This is kind of the soft launch. I'm getting my feet wet. So there's a podcast, and then there'll be at least 1, 2, maybe 3 videos a week. Some will be small, standalone videos. Some will be project-oriented. And then, I'll be on social media and post stuff, Twitter, and then I can post as a blog on the Patreon site. But really, if you go to patreon.com/Brook Drumm and support me, then I'll be able to do more content. And really the idea is these patrons, these people that are not just passing by, got an alert from YouTube, but they intentionally went to support $2 or whatever a month. And it goes from like $2 to $50. The $50, I'll Skype with you one-on-one. I've already done that with one guy. I spent, you get like 20 minutes or 30 minutes or something. We Skyped like an hour. But, there's different things. You get a little credit on the videos as a producer, associate producer, executive producer. Some people have said, hey, I'll give you the $50 just because I believe in what you're doing, but I don't want to be mentioned. So I was like, okay. I took their name off. So anyway, so let me get back to this. So anyway, the Patreon stuff is what I'll be doing. I forgot what I was saying, Margie. What was I even saying? I don't even know what I was talking about. Okay, let me get back to this stream and see if there's anything that needs to be answered.
They want to know what you're going to be doing.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to be doing. I'll just tell you right now. Wait, I saw Bree Pettis' name. Somebody said...
Yeah, they just said, wow, haven't heard from him.
Yeah, haven't heard from Bree in a while. It's funny. Bree and I have been friends ever since the beginning, but just because we met through this stuff, I saw him at a show. He was very kind to me. He's very cordial. He was actually a fan of what I was doing. A funny story about Bree, at least about Thingiverse. When I first started, I thought, you know what? This has got to be easy. I want to get an app that people can use on iPhone app. I was doing iPhone apps, sort of. I mean, I'd hire people to do them way back, and really wanted to be an Apple developer for a while. I had ideas, but I didn't know how to code. But I hired a 17-year-old kid that was local, that was a computer programmer, and he was like a genius. He could write iPhone apps, anything. Any language. He learned a language in a weekend if I needed a language, So he started out with Lua and was doing like gaming. I took him to a hackathon in the Bay. So I had this really brilliant kid, and I said, you know what we should do? We should have an app on your phone that just sends prints to the printer. I don't know how that's going to work, but the first thing we have to do is make a repository. So what I did was I had him set up I still have the computer. I had him set up a server, an iMac Mini, I think. Yeah, a Mac Mini. And we set it up in the office at PrinterBot, and he wrote a curl script or all this programming to literally scrape Thingiverse, because I said I want everything that's on Thingiverse on that computer. He was like, that's like 300,000 models. And I said, yeah, so can you do that? And he said, yes. And I said, okay, this is going slow, so let's like narrow it, because I don't even want the stuff that isn't supposed to be used for commercial, you know? So I said, write the scripts to check the files that are public domain. Those we want. Totally free public domain stuff. And then there were some other ones, share and share alike, the Creative Commons licenses. So I said, well, let's just limit it to these. But let's scrape Thingiverse. Early on, they had a funny thing where it was like the first item that was, it would, auto create a HTML link for a file name. And it started at 1. And then the next file that was uploaded was 2 and 3 and so on. And it went to like 300,000. Well, over the years, some people removed their stuff, so there's a lot of gaps. But we just started hitting every number and downloading every file. We downloaded the details of the file, the whole page it was on. We couldn't legally use the thumbnails. But anyway, so I had this programmer that was scraping the thing, and I thought, I wonder what they're going to do when they, because I'm causing them all this traffic, and I wonder if they're going to get mad. And I always wondered, they never shut us down. And I saw Bree at a show, and he was like, hey, Brook. And I was like, hey, you know who I am? And he's like, yeah, I saw you on Kickstarter, and I follow what you do. I ordered one of your printers. I was like, you did? I didn't even know. And he goes, yeah, I got it. I haven't put it together. I gave it to one of my interns. I said, oh, that's cool. And I said, hey, I'm scraping your site. And he goes, I know. And I was like, oh, you know? And he goes, yeah, we've been watching you ever since you started doing that and wondering what you're doing with that. And I'm like, is it illegal? I don't think it's illegal, is he? He's like, no, not really. But we're going to change our terms of service, so you can't do that. And he's like, you're not the only one, by the way, and you weren't being mean about it. So anyway, Bree was gracious from day one. And so we had a little bit of a friendship. We'd see each other, saw him in Paris. He was a pretty nice guy. What's funny about being a CEO of one of those early 3D printer startups is, me, Max, and Bree, we were going through the same types of things. There were others that made it big on Kickstarter, Robo 3D. There's others. But you just kind of instantly, you went through the same thing, so you just kind of had you were fast friends. So even though, Bree knows, just like the rest of us do, that some of the decisions that he made weren't seen in the like hardcore open source world as awesome. He knows that. I'll let him speak for his own decisions, but he was gracious enough. I actually saw him in person recently, and he took me out to lunch in the Bay. And he's willing to chat. He's done some. He bought Other Mill, and now it's called Bantam Tools. And so if you do a Google search on Bree Pettis and Bantam Tools, you'll see what he's doing. It's pretty cool. So Other Mill was a great machine. So and he's been out in the public more lately. He just doesn't come around to these circles because it's a CNC company right now. And but he's a nice guy. He's a real person. And just like me, who's made a lot of mistakes, and now I gotta pay the piper for the mistakes that I made in my business. So I don't know that he went into hiding. He was just overwhelmed. So I get it why he stepped back for a long time, and now he'll be back in the spotlight. At least he's back in the public view now. But anyway, so Bree's a good guy. Max is a good guy.
Wait, somebody asked if Ubis is selling any of your parts.
Carl Ubis is a good friend. I see him regularly in person. So if you tell him you want him to carry some of my other parts, I have all the sourcing. I may have some here, actually. And if you really want something that I may have something laying around, you can buy it from me. But I did make sure that he is stocking the Simple Pro heat beds. So here's what I know he has and may not have up for sale. He's got various heat beds, 6x6, the 10x10, 8x8 or 10x10. I think it's an 8x8 heat bed for the Plus. He's got those. He's got all kinds of thermistors out the yin yang. He's got every kind of hot end you ever wanted, all the tips you ever wanted. He's got some extruders. He's got the gearhead extruders now. He just got a hold of some acrylic to do the spacers. I think he needs to order magnets, but the build plate for the Simple Pro, I know he has some of those.
Somebody's asking about geared extruders. Will he have those?
Yes, he has in his hands, hot little hands right now, he has the geared extruders, the Gearhead V2. Or wait, no, just the Gearhead. V2 isn't, it never was released. I have a couple of those. If you bug me about it, you could. By the way, I'm still at brook@printerbot.com. They haven't taken that domain name away from me. I may end up getting to keep it. Not that I won't I'm not going to come out as another Printerbot. That's not going to happen.
Somebody asked about intellectual property after the bankruptcy.
There was no intellectual property. For one, I have no intellect. Hopefully somebody besides my wife laughed. So no intellectual property because it's all open source. So if somebody wants to make any of my stuff, okay. By the way, brookdrum.com / brookdrum.com. I'm actually going to go through, I worked on it the other day. I'm going through and all of the stuff that I've ever sold is going to be put up there in step files, Fusion 360 archives, whatever makes sense. If you go back far enough, it's DXF files for the wooden printers. But I have terabytes of stuff from all these employees. I had to get all their computers and clean them all off. And I saved all that stuff. So I have tons. I have videos I forgot I had. Videos, pictures, designs. And these designs, I'm sure, are in horrible shape. So I'm going to actually post all of the models that I ever sold, the full step files or DXF, whatever I have. And yes, I'm sorry if they're in bad shape because that's what you get. You don't throw a fit. So if people want to help me like improve them, fix problems, you know, when I was doing Illustrator design, there'd be times where I didn't connect the line in Illustrator or in SketchUp. It was a non-manifold part or something. All that stuff's about to be dumped on Brook Drumm. Yeah. Yeah. Brookdrum.com. We were joking about that last night. Brook is dumb, but his name is Drum.
So a couple of questions about if somebody were to make this stuff from your designs, would you consider it flattery or stealing? What about people selling Printerbot clones?
Where did you read this? Where are you reading this stuff? Oh.
I'm reading the text.
Is that Vishal?
Vishal asked about...
Vishal, very engaged. I suspect Vishal wants to make some of this stuff. He says...
He's a patron.
Okay. He's a patron. So I love him instantly anyway. Patreon.com/brookdrum. Okay. He says, if somebody were to make the stuff from your designs, would you consider it flattery or stealing? I would consider it flattery stealing. My wife is surely not the only one laughing at these jokes. No, I mean, if guys that say they're open source, here's what I am. I'm a guy that said I was open source, and then I was too lazy to post some of the files, you know? And actually, I was just too embarrassed to release some of the files. But if anybody ever asked for them and said, I want these files, you said they were open source, I would email them the file. I would publish them. So I'm going to do that once and for all, so everything's out there. So I've been for years said I'm open source. And you can tell he's a dad with the jokes. Yeah, they're sucky jokes, aren't they?
Yeah, because somebody said, weren't some designs open source but non-commercial?
No, that's all bullcrap. So
They're all
very, very early, I thought, oh, here's how you protect your stuff and get credit for being open source. You say, it's open source, non-commercial. And then 5 minutes later, somebody said, it's non-defensible. You can't defend that. That's just a waste of time. So I thought, and I actually had somebody steal the design. Steal is the word that open source designers use when people use the open source files that they gave away for free to the world. That's stealing. No, we don't have any right. It's open source. So I'm giving it to you, the world. Make it. I don't care. Make it, reproduce it. But I'll tell you, I took great care in not only designing these printers, but making them well. So some people can't make them as well as I made them, so they might not be the same quality. Now, on the other side of the coin, there are some people that are far more talented than me in manufacturing. They would I guarantee you they'll make them cheaper. And they might even make them better. So that's the world we live in, so it's fine. If you guys want to make them and sell them, go for it. I'll release everything. Okay. Flattery stealing. Yeah, you know, there's like on Twitter and stuff. There's what is it? The humble brag or something like that. Oh, I donated to Brook Drumm today on Patreon. Don't you wish?
Somebody wants to know how much.
But you know they brag about it.
Donate for you to stop making bad jokes.
Oh yeah. I know, right? This is me though. I make bad jokes, so if you don't like it, you can leave. No, I'm just kidding. I know. Yes, it's bad jokes, but that's part of the. That's what my family has to put up with, you know what I'm saying?
This Mitch 3D, is that something you should know? He said, what about people selling Printerbot clones and then other people are saying hi to him? Is he in the industry? Maybe?
Printerbot clones? Show me one good Printerbot clone right now. Send me a link. Go. I'm waiting. Printerbot clone, give me a link. We cannot go forward until somebody gives me a link to a Printerbot clone.
I don't know. It's Mitch 3D that asked that. I don't know who that is. What else?
Danska 6. You were so sweet.
He's a backer. I mean, he's a...
Yeah, so here's the thing. I saw a couple of people send me a screenshot of, like a couple years ago. Somebody cloned the Simple Metal.
Somebody said I can't post links. I guess they can't post.
Oh, you can't post links? Wait, why not? Type it out, though. What are you talking about? It's words. Links are words. Links are letters. Type letters.
Someone made a clone of the Plus V2 in aluminum, it says.
Ah, wait, the Plus V2. What's that?
That's what it said. And YouTube will remove them from comments if you do a link.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, unless the user is a moderator. That's what they
Why are you getting these things faster than I are?
Because I'm just
Than I are.
quicker. It's actually a little delayed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm reading them quickly.
Yeah, so I've seen a couple of clones. There were people that the guy that did the aluminum version of the Simple V2, I gave him the files. If I remember right, I gave him the files. He was like, "Hey, I'm doing aluminum. Would you be a fan?" I was like, "No, that's awesome. Do that. Yes." And so I'm pretty sure I helped him with that. It's been a while since that happened. I saw one ripoff of a Chinese printer. It was all in Chinese. I couldn't translate it. It was a Simple Metal. It was done with 8mm bars. It was very poorly executed. They changed some key things that were bad ideas, and I never saw it again. So I don't know that knockoffs are that big of a deal. You know, you get what you pay for. Is the printer board dead?
Yeah.
Great question. No, it's not dead. Just yesterday, I had a phone call with Carl. Again, he's trying to get up his sourcing, you know. I had some stuff, like I said, I have some random items, but it's not a business. It's a guy with a garage full of junk. You know, I'd give him stuff that he needed because there were some people that said, "Hey, I need this part," and I'd look around and here you go. So he might have a few things that he can sell right now, but he's trying to get the sourcing up on the popular items. So it's, by the way, it's ubishotends.com. So I'm trying to help him carry whatever you want. I don't care if Carl keeps all the money. I don't get paid from this. Although he did I gave him a whole bunch of stuff, just random stuff. And he was so kind to give me a little cash thank you. But that's not a business. It's not how I make a living. I want Carl to succeed. Carl's retired. I don't know that he even really needs the money, but he's having a blast. So he's still making hot ends, and he did just make an order, or is about to make an order with the supplier for the printer boards. Rev F6. Now, we're already talking about a Rev F7. I don't know if it's a good idea. I don't know.
Somebody commented that the printer board clones of the older versions are still going for over $100.
No.
So I don't know what versions those are.
I think I created printer board clones for over $100. Don't buy that. That's ridiculous. Those have been made in, again, open source. Those have been made in India and China for years, and they're horrible. The ones I know of were horrible. The real printer board is a 4-layer board with like proper engineering and high quality parts. Some of the clones I've seen were gray market parts, which means they were desoldered by a child in China on the street, and the numbers were sanded off the top, so you can't even tell where the part came from. That's no lie. I got boards that Carl, who was in the industry, he was 30 years at HP, and he knew how to identify. He would go to China. He knew how to identify gray market parts, and they're the wrong specs, and et cetera, et cetera. And he said, "This is a gray market board. Don't go with this supplier." So I was like, "See ya." And that's when I started making in San Jose and Silicon Valley. Those boards in quantities of 1,000. They originally cost me around $45. When I made them myself, I could make them for $25-ish. Then you got to pay for your other stuff. That was just bomb, bill of materials. But when you run a pick and place machine, you got to have employees and hand soldering. Or we did selective solder, but anyway, there's more fees, shipping, packaging. So I figured those should be priced at COGS, cost of goods and services. COGS on a printer board would be $40. I used to sell the refurbs for whatever I could get for them. But a new board should probably be somewhere in the $60 range to $80 range. $100 is way too much. That's ridiculous. It's kind of an old school board, you know. It's not the Trinamic chip and all that. If you got any electronic engineers out there that want to help me make it like super awesome with Trinamic chips, and like there's a few things on my list of things I would change. Does anybody care about this?
That same guy was asking, about can you add a dual extruder for anything?
I do have some extruder boards. The last thing I want is to have to, package 72 unique items to 72 different people. But I don't have a job right now, so it's not that bad. But the extruder board, Lane, who designed the board, he lives in Folsom. He's close by. I told him from the beginning I want to be able to have 3 extruders. So he made me an extruder.
You just said yes, a ton.
An extruder board. A ton what?
They all said yes. I don't know.
Oh, you're interested in this. Good.
Talk about Trinamic chips.
Yes, talk about Trinamic chips. I will talk about Trinamic chips. Anyway, so extruder board can go on any old printer board. Any of them, from all the way back to Rev B, which I don't even know if you knew existed. I have the prototypes. That was like Rev A. We went B, C, D. India made E, so I skipped E and went to F. So if you got a Rev E, I didn't make it. Rev F, Rev F5, Rev F6. Like the naming convention is the most screwed up thing you've ever heard. But there's a who was it? I'm trying to remember his name. Jesse Laird, a sweet, talented guy that helped me try to get control of all of he was a community member that helped me try to make sense. He was like a real electronic engineer or software guy, and he knew how to like do things properly. I didn't. I was run and gun, and he was like, "Can I straighten all this out for you and like get the firmware like unified to one branch, and then we can do this other thing." Along the way, I burned that guy out, and I hurt his feelings, and so he stopped working with me. But if you go to, I apologize, by the way. If you go to github.com/printerbot, I think it's still there. github.com/printerbot. And then you go, it's kind of weird how you navigate this. If you go to printerboard, I think. No, I'm wrong. Never mind. Go back. Marlin. And then on releases, see that 17 releases? There you have the sordid history of all of the different changes we made. That's the best repository of all of the different versions of the printer board and where to get, because I was notorious for just releasing the hex files as if I was trying to keep something secret. No, I'm just an idiot when it comes to compiling in GitHub and source code. That's it. I mean, that's the truth. When I needed something changed, I would say, Lane, can you come by after work and help me? I want this thing to work. So he'd come and he'd change it and he'd leave, and then that would be a hex file that I'd release, having no clue how to compile it. Now, by the way, on this, if I could diverge just for a second. Okay, this is Nerdsville live stream right now. My wife's sitting here. Margie, just keep me informed if like they're bored. When you guys are bored and want me to move on to something else, I haven't forgot Trinamic. But I got to tell you about something. I was at a hackerspace yesterday in Marysville. It's called... What's it called?
Something Geek Awake. I don't know.
Wide Awake Geek.
There you go.
Something. Anyway, great guy. He was involved in opening the hackerspace in Rockland, which works with the Sierra College, the first state community college that has a hackerspace too, like a public hackerspace. I don't know. Anyway, it's pretty cool. Brian worked with them down there too. Cool hackerspace in Rockland. He branched off, started a hackerspace in Marysville. So I'm down there, and a guy, Phil, who's really, really talented guy. He's like the 3D printing nerd up there. He said, Brooke, have you used platform.io? And I said, well, I mean, I kind of. If you go to Google and download Atom, that's the text editor you should be using if you do any coding. Now, some of you guys are Arduino guys and you swear by Arduino. You know how to do that, and that's, fine. But if you get the platform.io add-on for Atom, A-T-O-M, there's, where's my computer? There's a new Marlin like UI that you can slap on top of that.
I don't know where your little...
And it's the first, I've kind of whined about this. Hey, community, please make printer boards easier to program through Platformio or platform.io. It's called Marlin Configurator. I'm going to do a Google search. Platform. I just found out about this yesterday, and of course, this guy was on Windows. I was on Mac. He didn't know how to do Mac. I don't know how to do either. Platform.io. Marlin configurator. Aha. Yes, there it is, I think. Installing Marlin 2 with Platform.io. Anyway, there's this, somebody's got to like email me and show me how to do it or send me a link to somebody, but it's really cool because it just gives you this. It is unbelievably easy. Once you got it all set up and you got all the dependencies from yada yada, there's like a button that's like, which board are you compiling for? And you choose the printer board. And then it says, well, what branch of Marlin do you want to compile for? And you choose, I don't think he was on Marlin 2 yet, because I think that's for ARM. But you just say, oh, I want the latest branch of Marlin with all of the bed leveling and all that. Boom, it would compile it and it would fit on the printer board. So I was like, and there was even like features that you could choose. So, hello, compiling for the printer board is about to get a lot easier. So I was pretty excited about that. Now, Trinamic. That company is really cool. They came over and visited me. It's the German company. I think it's German. I could be wrong. That I lost my chat window. They're the German company that makes those chips. They're silent. They do all this crazy stuff. And so on this chip, they have they can measure the EMF from the frequencies from the motor, so you don't have, theoretically, although I've heard people can and have done this. I haven't done this, but they were telling me they were working on it a couple years ago, and Alden from Tiny G was saying that this would be nice too. You can use these driver chips to sense when it hits the wall, like hits the wall. No end stops needed. So now the wiring gets cheaper. Not that it's that expensive, but you can do it has a built-in hardware acceleration, so you can do that nice bell curve when you're speeding up and going fast, and it can be silent. There's a lot of cool stuff with those chips. So yeah, any electronics should be moving to those. Prusa did it. A lot of other guys. I think the Duet something.
Somebody just said lots of PID loop programming for triminic chips. What does calibration take? What does that mean?
Yeah, so the PID loops, they had built-in stuff, but I know you could tune them. So yeah, I don't even own one. I just told the company, well, I'm doing Tiny G board right now, and I know you're already talking to Tiny G. I think it's public knowledge that Tiny G is wanting to come out with a successor to their latest. You know, they kind of stalled at like V8, and then they jumped to V9, which had a dual channel USB. It was for CNC. And then I came along and was like, hey, let's do a 3D printer board, and spent a lot of time and money on that. It ended up great. So I have some of those boards now that you could run 32-bit ARM with the great Tiny G math that does all the acceleration and all that kind of stuff. I still am a believer in G2 Core firmware for the Tiny G, but my board is very, very obscure. I was the only one making them. I made them on my own, pick and place, and then Johnny at Ulta Machine ended up making them for me in the end. But when I had to kill the cloud, couldn't afford it once the business was closed, that touchscreen, which was so nice. The touchscreen that I had in the Simple Pro had a Teensy 3.2, I think. It had an ESP Wi-Fi chip and a touchscreen that was really good. And it used PJRC's Teensy. Anyway, it had the really fast refresh rate. The Adafruit screens, if you don't use the Teensy drivers, it kind of sucks. So it was like the best of everything, and once we got it all figured out, it was awesome. But it was made to like there was a power board for power, discrete. It would send power to the Tiny G board, ribbon cables going up to everywhere, so wire fatigue was gone. And then it had a touchscreen that it would power with Wi-Fi. So yeah, I have some of those parts. If there's anybody out there that just want to rewrite the firmware that goes on those boards, you'll have a beautiful touchscreen. Now, by the way, Mosaic Manufacturing, the new Palette 2, I think, they called me and said, hey, that touchscreen's awesome. Can we use it? Yes, it's open source. It's yours. Gave them all of my suppliers and the firmware and the GitHub and the Gerbers and everything. And they went out and said, well, we don't need this, don't need this, don't need this, threw out a bunch of stuff. And they were able to make that board for cheap. I don't even want to say how cheap. A third of what I was making them for. So they got them made somewhere else, maybe China, maybe. But that board has potential. It's on GitHub. But anyway, what else we got? Trinamic features are great. Prusa did a good job. I heard he had some trouble with some of that stuff, though. I know that both Prusa and when I talked to Prusa about it, he's using the Einstein board, which is really a Rambo Mini. Also made by Johnny. Johnny kind of has a corner of the market on a lot of the 3D printer boards. He's in Tennessee, I believe. Ulta Machine. Great guy. Go there, spend money there. But he did the Einstein. Sensorless homing was a little iffy. Yeah, that's what I heard. The engineers at Trinamic says, I won't do impressions. They said, it's easy. We can do that. We'll work with them. But it's very technical. Very, very technical. I bet once they opened up Marlin, the old Marlin, the new Marlin is turning a new leaf. But I've seen that code. That code in Marlin was a mess. I know that Prusa did a lot of work to it, though. He had a great team. Still does.
Somebody asked about
Yeah, the G2 board. What?
programming code. Should I learn to reprogram a Simple Pro?
Oh, the Simple Pro. Here's what you do. If you have a Simple Pro and you're pissed off because I killed the cloud, first of all, I am so sorry. I really am. My printer doesn't work either. You know, now the screen doesn't work. But here's what you do. You turn off that printer. You plug in a USB cable. You turn on the printer. There you go. Somebody edit that video. That's how you print with USB in that. Now, Yes, there's a special magic sauce G code, starting G code that you need. Um, why do you need it? Well, you would need it if you wanted to run the heat bed. There's a little code that says, hey, turn the heat bed on. You can do that at the beginning. Um, but you can print with Cura straight away. I did it today at Lincoln High School, my son's engineering class. I literally turned off the machine, plugged in the Windows computer, USB, turned the machine on. So what it does is it checks and it says, is there a USB? Is there a computer hooked up through USB? Yes, there is. Then we'll use that. But you'll screw it up if you start banging on the screen. Like, what am I doing? Don't touch this. Don't mess with the screen if you're printing via USB. So since the screen's kind of useless, it's not totally useless. Like, you could calibrate it to go up and down to figure out where that sweet spot is if you had a file on there. So here's something somebody else could do. There is an SD card on those touchscreens. If you were a computer programmer that likes pain, you could go to, or don't all computer programmers like pain? I know all hardware designers like pain. But if you went to the GitHub, you can see what compression software we used. We were trying to solve these problems, and the ESP would only eat a file that big with good repeatability. So we didn't optimize everything. So we actually had to take all the files that came down from the cloud, cut them into little bitty bytes, like check the byte. Is that good? Okay, put that over there. And when all the little bytes came along, I don't mean bytes like whatever. Little parts of files came in and it was reassembled. And we had to use some compression to make that faster, even though it was kind of slow. But there's a file format used on that I don't even know what it is, but somebody could write a program probably pretty easily that kind of reassembles that into G code, or takes G code and puts it in that file format, and you could bloop, put it in there and use that SD card. But the easy way is turn the printer off, plug the USB in, hook it up to Cura, turn it back on. It'll sense that it's connected, and you can use that starting G code. ubishotends.com has documentation. The day after I closed the shop, I don't know if it was the day after, but like a couple days after, if you go to github.com/abdrum, github.com/abdrum. My name is Arthur Brook Drumm, A-B Drum, 2 M's. Yep, right there next to my bald head. There's Printerbot docs. Click on that. And then it says G2 board documentation. 2 months ago, I posted that. It's a lot of information in there, but if you look down there's the starting G code. If you want to, there's all kinds of stuff in that document, but you can print, always could. We tried to get people to print with USB more, but most people that ordered that machine just wanted to use the touchscreen, swipe, hit print. Someday I hope to either replace that screen with Octoprint, for my own sake, or get somebody to hack that little board and touchscreen so it works. If you're a programmer and you want to do this, you email me.
A couple people mentioned CNC. Maybe you want to plug that and clue in that they can come see all that.
Griffin, how you doing, Griffin? Good to have you here. I think he was saying they don't have enough accuracy over mechanical end stops. I got to tell you that we don't. The truth about a lot of machines, especially when you get into CNC, which I'll talk about. There are many CNCs, laser cut. I don't know about laser cutters, but there's a lot of machines that don't use any end stops. They just slam into the wall. They go to the, a robot arm will retract all the way until it can't move anymore. Or end stops aren't that necessary. No, it's nice to keep it quiet. But if you turn the power way down, like digital pots, if you turn the power way down and then bumped into the edge, it would both be quiet and it would find its true home resting position. It was funny because I used to print without end stops with the Cupcake, and I thought, oh, this will be awesome. It will be able to home and start right back where it was on the print. Who does that? Very few people. I know some do, don't get me wrong. I know people lose power or whatever. But I don't really think we need end stops anyway. They're just kind of a nicety. I don't know how you're not using. Once you start printing, you don't use them. You don't use them. If you're hitting end stops in a print, something's wrong, and you're probably going to lose that print anyway. So it would seem to me that the Trinamics would be, if it just slams into the edge, a physical hard stop for the machine. Why wouldn't it be? I mean, you could do both. Plus, I mean, a minimum and maximum. If you didn't have end stops to wire up, it'd be awesome. But anyway, I understand people want them. The sensorless end stop homing. Yeah, I know it's not accurate, but you're not doing anything with them that it's accurate. I don't mean to sound condescending, but I'm saying I don't understand why people need end stops. Anyway. Hey, Thomas, how you doing? Are you interested in building more hardware as a business? Yeah, I will very, very likely, once all this legal crap clears, it's very likely I'll start a new business and sell some hardware. Yeah. In fact, right now, I'm open to consulting, so you can hire me to consult. But what that means is like periodic check-ins with either designers or people starting companies. They want advice. They want to know sourcing stuff. Like, there's no secrets with anything that I did. Anybody can pick my brain. But, it takes time to do that, and it takes interest to really be involved in a project that I don't necessarily have to be passionate about a 3D printer to help people build a better one. I may not like that design of printer. Like, I never did a Delta. I'm not into Deltas, but I could advise somebody on a Delta. So anyway, there might be some people that, and I got an email today that maybe there is one that might be interested in having me involved in the project at a very finite degree. So hopefully that'll keep the lights on until I get to form a new company and start selling stuff again. I got to tell you what I'm doing on. Am I missing anything else before I tell them what I'm doing on Patreon?
Somebody had asked what your favorite printer ever was that you designed, but that was a while back.
Favorite printer ever that I designed was easily the Simple Pro. I know, surprising. Probably the softest place in my heart for a printer was the Simple Metal, which I only helped on. I didn't design that myself. I did the wood designs. It started with the Junior. I did the original Simple was a wooden Simple. The first ones I did was acrylic just for the show, and then I did wood designs, and that had string, right, for belts. And then I thought, ooh, that was a bad idea. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So then that changed to the Simple Makers Kit, and then people talked me into building those. Those went through several revisions. That is what eventually I said, let's make it metal. And Brian convinced me. So the Simple Metal was definitely our top seller. That was the one I sold the most of. And I have to say that it's the most, I think, elegant to a fault. It was so simple, so few parts. And I could have shaved even more parts off of that, just a couple. But it was just such an elegant design. But it didn't have feet, didn't have a switch. It didn't have anything it didn't need. It only had what was absolutely necessary for a printer. So I'm probably most proud of that design, but I have to tell you that the Simple Pro, we made this long list. I got all the guys that could even be remotely, well, no, it was all my employees. I got together and said, what is wrong with the Simple Metal? What's wrong with it? And we all knew a bunch of stuff people complain about. Oh, it doesn't have feet, doesn't have this, doesn't have that. It's hard to get to. People are grabbing their USB cables or this and that and the other. It didn't have a heated bed. All these things. And we went through and fixed everything that was wrong with the Simple Metal when we made the Simple Pro. The Simple Pro is as perfect a machine as you can make as far as the hardware, I believe. Now, there are some things that the decisions that I made with the Simple Pro that you may not agree with, and that's okay. But for me, that is the perfect machine. With the software, we probably got 75% there, 90% there, but it was too slow. and there was too many clicks, but still you could just dump a STL from Thingiverse with like one click, and then you could say send to printer, and then you could go over to your printer. Again, too many steps, should have been all automatic, yes, okay. But it was so easy. Then you could just select the picture of the model and hit print and walk away, and it was perfect. That thing was so nice. I still love that printer. But it wasn't everybody's cup of tea. It's not the perfect maker printer. I thought it was the best I could have possibly done for like kids and newbies. So, but I still love it. And what I saw at my shop, I had some guys that were just taking a paycheck. But I had some guys that were absolute 3D printing nerds, and they would own they always had two flavors. They wanted a simple, and then some of them who were really into like big models and printing big things, they'd want a plus for the build size. But it was the simple that they all would use. And we had a bunch of simples on the bot farm. Well, when I showed them, makers, geeks, the Simple Pro, they were like, I don't know about this. Where's all the controls that I'm used to, like, fiddling with? And they didn't really believe in it at first. Over the year, that's all they wanted to use, because they were like done, like doing another slice, and like tweaking things. They just used the Simple Pro. They loved it because it was so easy to use. And even my programmer and Brian has one, yeah. But me, it just was like so easy to use. So anyway, that's my favorite. That's the one I'm most proud of. I think it's the most beautiful.
You're gonna talk about your Patreon thing?
Okay. I feel like I'm watching the numbers, and we like went up to 65, and now
Right, it's starting to go down because people are having to leave.
we're falling off. So we're gonna close this up very, very soon. The last thing I'm gonna do is tell you what I'm doing on Patreon. So here is the pitch. I gave it to Joel Telling, and he goes, dude, just say that. That's awesome. Do that. So I have the luxury now of having more time on my hands. So I had some things that I learned, some weaknesses when I was at Printerbot. One of them was I was very easily distracted. Sometimes I got bored with just making the same printers day in, day out. And I would do this project, do that project, do this project, do that project. We're going to do one thing. One thing. And on this channel, I'm going to pick one machine. And the first machine is going to be a 3D printer. So I'm going to do a 3D printer. It's going to be a printer belt, but different. It's going to be what hopefully will be the perfect printer belt. I could do a Cartesian bot, but everybody does Cartesian bots. And frankly, that's been done. Check the box, buy a Cartesian if you want. If you want to, first of all, if you just want a printer, just go buy one. There's good printers out there. The Prusa is a good printer. So just go buy that. If you want a mini select, just be prepared to do a lot of tweaking on that. But that's cheap. I've seen some good prints come off of them, but they're not great. They're not awesome. Over time, you'll have to, and that's a little teeny bitty space. So go buy a printer if you want a printer. But if you want to see the process that I go through when I design and when I build and iterate that design and then redesign and build it again and test it and iterate and build it again and build it again and build it again and build it again until I feel like we got something here that is very compelling. So we're going to make the printer belt and we're going to perfect it. And that's what I'm going to do so that everybody can steal it. I'm kidding. I've had Chinese manufacturers get a hold of me and say, yes, we want to make the printer belt. Can we have the design, please? Thank you. Part of me was like, I don't care. But that was kind of at the end when I saw, I'm about to hit the ground, leave me alone. Like I didn't know what was going on. So, while I still have a couple printer belts here, it wasn't done. It wasn't finished. And I will not rest until that is either real and people are using it and we all get the benefit from it. Like, let's blow out the wall of XYZ, and one of them needs to be infinite. So let's either prove that it's possible and you guys will make alongside, or let's all agree that this is ridiculous and we're not going to do that because it doesn't work, or it's just bad or stupid or too hard or complicated or whatever. Let's find, yeah, I see these comments. People are saying, yeah, it was this and that and the other. Well, so what level do you have to sign up for to be in on the builds? $100.
That's not a level.
No? My wife says no. I don't know. I mean, my, you know me, my tendency is to like overshare. What is it, Margie? I don't know. I know this, that $2 is like, thanks. You're awesome because you're helping me do this. $3 is, whoa, super fan. You know, what?
That's 5.
Sorry, $5, super fan, awesome. Now, and for $5, they get a stuff. Like, they get to see the post. There's some Patreon only posts. They'll get access to the podcast early. So anybody, and the truth is, so you will get the same at $2. So if you go to patreon.com/Brook Drumm and you pledge it all, you'll get to hear about what I'm doing, and you'll get the podcasts. These, once I figure out how to work this thing, these live streams will be for the upper tiers. Is it $10?
10 for these, yeah.
The weekly streams, you get everything everybody else gets, and the weekly stream is $10. And you can do this with me. And then the next one is 20, and that's Google Hangout, where like we get to interact. Because you can tell that I'm like not paying attention to this chat thing most of the time. My wife's saying, "Hey, answer this question." Distracted.
From Scotland. That's cool.
But yeah, so the builds, the designs, early access is what Patreon gives you. So I would say that
Hey, Lane's on there.
10 and Lane's on here.
Lane just got on there.
Lane Walker, Avita, what's up, Lane?
He just got a couple new ones on there.
That's Lane, everybody. You're in the presence of greatness. You see him? He's got some kind of duck thing on there.
Everybody said hi to me. That's nice.
And Margie. Hello, Margie. So Lane, big thanks for his part. He designed the printer board. Anyway, so I don't know. I haven't figured out how the designs are going to work, but I will tell you that if you want to see the video content early, that's the place to go. So you got to go to Patreon and pledge, and you'll see it later. So if you want to be on the bleeding edge, not the cutting edge, because we don't claim it's going to be good, these designs, it's early designs. We'll end up at a good place, but if you want to be in on the bleeding edge, give me feedback while I'm designing. And I'm talking about, like, I'll post a video. Here's the design stuff, and here's the files. And you will download the files and look at it and say, you made mistakes, fix them. So the printer belt, somebody said no. Did I just say something that upset? Henner Zeller?
Yeah, he's been on there. He went on there a little bit.
I love Henner. You guys, there are some cool people on this. Henner Zeller's great. I still want to make that laser cutter, Henner. Talking about being distracted. The PCB etcher. Anyway, so the printer belt, I'm going to let you look over my shoulder while I finish that design, evaluate the decisions that I made, and I'll do, edited videos, not just like, blah, here I am, but like, here's an edited clip of just what you needed to know for that point, and here's an edited clip, and we'll make them high quality videos that we share, and the Patreon guys will see it early. As far as the designs themselves, like, I don't know. I'm not trying to keep stuff from y'all, and frankly, I wish I didn't have to do any of this. Like, this much money, this much value. Like, I wish I could just give it all away for free. But I do want people to support me while I'm trying to figure this thing out. So that's why I've done the Patreon thing. And so I'm just trying to appropriately reward those that have thrown in a lot. So like the $50 guys, I Skype them like direct, like, hello, it's Brooke. Hi, how you doing? And we talk for a while every month. But so anyway, that's how Patreon works. They're just trying to build incentive. So early release, access to the files, podcast, these videos, and the live stream. Soon the Google Hangout too. So that's how we're tiering them. So that's it. That's it. I'm going to do the printer bot. I say printer bot. I'm printer bot, right? The printer belt will be first. The second thing will be CNC. CNC will be second. See, here's what I'm doing. Here's the secret. My Patreon at the end of a year, at the end of the year, like a year out, I hope that I will be the channel on YouTube. It'll release later. But if you follow me closely on Patreon, you can track along with me. We're going to build a 3D printer that's good for doing light manufacturing and stuff. You know, like it'll be bigger too. It won't be a small printer belt. It'll be bigger. So you'll have a machine that can make parts. You'll have a CNC that can make parts. By the way, I'll tell you this, the CNC is going to be 4 foot by 4 foot. That I know. It'll be a derivative, most likely, of what I've already got, maybe very close, but we're going to make it better. Like, since I don't have to worry about price anymore, I might design stuff that costs $3,000 to build. What do I care? Because it's going to be good. That's the thing. The printer is going to be good. The CNC is going to be good. That'll be the second thing. Third thing. Right now, I've left laser cutters to other people. So I do think that you should probably buy a laser cutter. If you want a garage that's awesome, you want a laser cutter. Now, I don't recommend necessarily like one of those snazzy ones that are like little, you know, like I know Dan, the Glowforge guy. I think that he's doing some really incredible things to bring him and FS Laser, frankly, Dremel, who does Dremel's stuff. Those are cool for people that just want to, like, you know, it's kind of like what are they called? The Silhouette, the Cricut, you know, the vinyl cutters. Those are cool because they get it done and it's over, it's done. But if you're making stuff, you need a CO2 laser. Like, you need a big one. Like 2 foot by 3 foot is really what you need. So you need to go out and get one of those. I don't want to reinvent that wheel. I don't want to do laser cutters. But I do want to do water jet. So, the third thing. First will be a 3D printer. Second will be a CNC. Third thing, water jet. Now, you've probably seen the video on YouTube for the guy that modded that pressure washer off of Amazon. It was like a Chinese, like, plastic, like, I think it was like 150 bucks or something. I have that one. And I'm going to follow in his footsteps and tear that thing apart and do what he did and learn what I can by destroying a pressure washer. Now, I probably will skip the next step. Like, the next step that he did was, somebody asked, will the printer belt, this is distracting to have this, but will the printer belt use UBIS hot ends? Of course, the printer belt will use a 24 volt high temp hot end, maybe with a special tip that you don't know about that performs really well, like maybe the Ruby or something. I hope Carl's not watching. He'd kill me if he knew I said that. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to use UBIS hot ends only. Come on. But you'll build your own. You put whatever you want on it, but you should put UBIS tip on there. The water jet. No, I'll tell you where I'll go after the water jet. The main machines you need to make just about anything, you need a 3D printer. But that doesn't do it for everything you're building. It's only appropriate for some things. CNC, that doesn't do it for everything you're going to build. That'll do it for some things. You always want to use the appropriate tool for the job. And instead of just promoting 3D printers, I'm like, hey, if you want to be a real maker, learn how to use buy a CNC, a 3D printer, a laser cutter, and let's figure out how we can make water jet affordable. Now, plasma table would be like appropriate in some things, but it's real rough. And some people don't want to do that. I'm telling you, these small water jets, Brian bought one of those, what's it called? Proto? Omax did a $20,000 water jet that's like square, 12 by 12. It's awesome. But who can afford $20,000? That's ridiculous, right? I can't. So we're going to figure out how to do a viable water jet that you can use in your garage. It's possible, people. I have secrets. We opened up that Omax, and believe me, there's not a lot to it. There's not a lot to it. So that was the YouTube guy, and seeing that Omax or whatever it's called, proto thing, whatever it's called. That was the inspiration, and me and Brian were like, this is possible. Now, I saw the Wazer, and I think it's too slow. And there was another project I saw that a school did, and they used the wrong... Anyway, so we'll say more about that at another date, but if you want to come along for the ride on Patreon, you'll see brand new printer, brand new CNC design that you can build at home. And by the way, that's the whole deal. I ain't selling hardware. I might consider selling kits if there's machine parts, but hopefully these parts to make these machines, if you got a CNC, you can make the machine yourself. Like, we're going to make everything in the garage. It's going to be the true test of a maker making his own machines, like the right way, not like cheese ball, like bad decision way, like I did in the beginning. But with everything that I've learned, everything that Brian can help me learn, and others in this community, they'll be able to say, whoa, don't do that. Do it this way instead, and I'll be listening. So we're going to see what the community and me can come up with. 3 key machines. Go buy your laser cutter, okay? Maybe we'll do a laser cutter at some point, but I do know another machine that I absolutely want to include at the tail end of all this. That'll be the meat of it. And then we'll just do projects, right? We're going to do projects on these machines. And there'll be crossover. For our water jet, we're going to have to 3D print stuff. We're going to have to CNC stuff. Once we get the water jet and we have a project to do, hey, we don't have to CNC that part anymore. We water jet that part, or we water jet the buck, or the first step 1 is get this piece. Step 2, mill around it, drill the holes in, whatever it is, or machine out the holes to spec or whatever. But I think with the water jet, a 3D printer, a laser cutter, a CNC, you're set. You're set for most dudes that want to, men and women that want to build in their garage. That's the plan. That's patreon.com/Brook Drumm. All right. Any awesome last questions? If not, I'm out. Margie?
I think that's probably about all of it. Oh no, there was one guy that
Mitch.
asked me one quick question. Which hot end was on the Adoptabot? He asked it twice. I meant to tell you.
Which hot end was on the Adoptabot?
Yeah,
oh, by the way, I will post all those files. I got all the files. And I'm fine if anybody wants to just take them, mirror them, fork it, do whatever you want. But I will post the Adoptabot. In fact, that's the number 1 on my list because he's been asking me.
Is that just the ceramic?
The Adoptabot used anything, any of the UBIS tips. And if you're printing, you can use an E3D if you want to.
No, he wanted to buy one for a kid that got one.
Oh, great.
That the hot end broke. Okay.
It was probably either ceramic or... because I was using all my spare parts up on that Adoptabot program. So, but the better hot end is, well, you can't even get the ceramic anymore. The UBIS 13S. That's the one. Folding machines. Oh, I'll tell you, the other machine, there's a list of machines I want to make, but whether or not that'll make it to the video. Henner Zeller, if we can build one of those LD Graphy, that would be awesome. A foam cutter, that's what I want. I want a foam cutter. And I'm not just talking about, a wire like foam, although that would be awesome. We built, well, my programmer built one and showed me. He built a foam cutter with like a rotating, you'd like put this block on it and it would go through and it would cut it into like a thing. It was like almost 5-axis, but it wasn't 5-axis. But a foam cutter would be really cool. But what I want is one that operates on a spindle with like a 2-foot long cutting blade where you can do like crazy stuff, like what's it called, frog mill? A buddy of mine works at a shop for fun that they have a frog mill, I think is what it's called. And like for a party, he says, I'm gonna do a Statue of Liberty. It's a 4th of July party. So he cut a like scale model of the Statue of Liberty that was like 7 or 8 feet tall, and it looked perfect. Like, imagine cosplay if you could take a huge hunk of foam and 3D, like 5-axis mill that sucker for foam. It'd be awesome. You can make sets for plays and stuff. What you do is you spray that stuff with truck bed liner, and then you can paint it, and it is tough as nails, and it'll last forever. So yeah, I want to do all that stuff, but again, we want to do one thing at a time, do it well, and then we might take a break and do some projects on it, and then do the next machine, do it well. And when I say do it well, I don't just mean build the machine, because I've been doing a little bit of studying on what happens in this crazy YouTube universe. And what happens is to get the deadline that they set for themselves, to get it done, because a lot of these are like one project in one video. And that ain't me. They like rush, and like if you were to see, like if they turned it around and showed the camera, the back of it is like, I saw this gaming machine from a Raspberry Pi, and I was like, it kind of looks like a lot of the other ones. And he goes, well, hey, I know, like I glued this with hot glue on the back. I know, like I know. That doesn't fly with me. I want to do it right. I want to give documentation. I want to have it be vetted in real time by the community. I'd actually help. I will ask help from the community. Like if somebody wants to clean up my crazy loose design files and say, here, Brooke, this is what you did. It just looks a lot better now, and all the nuts and bolts are in there. Like, you can be my helper. But documentation and then training, especially with CNC. There's so much that's misunderstood about CNC. It's easy to be bad at 3D printing. You know, like it's easy to be bad at all this stuff. It's easy to be a bad CNC guy, and that's me. So I found this guy, Jeremy Black, that has agreed to hold my hand, not literally, and show me what he knows. He's been doing CNC for decades. He is a very, very high-end kitchen designer, and he, like $100,000 kitchens. And he knows so many tricks of the trade, but he has the same mentality as I do. Don't waste time. Don't waste time. Like, get it done right, make sure it's reproducible, make sure you can sell it as a product. And you need to teach Brooke, there's so many hints that he says, I got to teach you. I have to show you from a guy that did manufacturing for wood, a CNC router. He wants to train, so he's going to be in the videos with me to show all these tricks on how to hold the work. Vacuum table is what we're going to do. He'll show you the tricks that you don't know.
This is the same guy that made the cabinet for you.
Yeah, that's the guy. He made the cabinet that the CNC sits on. So you'll meet, Jeremy's a great guy. He's a cop in Rockland over here. He works with, he was on SWAT team, but now he works in the, what am I trying to think of? The dogs. Oh, canine. He's a canine guy. Really cool guy. So he's going to be in those videos with me. I will get Brian Rowe to be in some of the videos. We'll shoot some of them at his shop when I need big, awesome machines. He's got them all. He has so much stuff up there. It's ridiculous. So that's the plan. So that's it.
Okay, I gotta go get Levi.
Vacuum tables are awesome. That'd be good. I don't want to just reinvent things people already have nailed. Like, if there's an awesome do-it-yourself vacuum table out there, we need to just... Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about vacuum molding. Vacuum tables are tough without a ton of power. I disagree. And I'm talking about 4x8 sheet. Jeremy had a $150,000 huge machine with like 12 tool changer on it. He had a 15 horsepower spindle. And he says, I used a vacuum table that we made with a shop vac. And yeah, that's fine. Okay. All right, bye. Say bye to Margie. Anyway, so if you do the vacuum table right, you can't, if you're using a full sheet. Now, granted, if you have something small, yeah, we're going to have to show how to hold the work. But I'm talking about wood and a big 4x4 sheet of wood. So, yeah, the surface needs to be flat, absolutely. What?
You put buy Margie B-Y.
Oh, somebody said bye.
I think that's funny.
Bye, Margie. I don't have to buy her. I'm married to her. Bird and Gems. Anyway, when we get to the CNC stuff, we can have these discussions. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to close it down. It's time to pick up my boy from baseball. So it's good to be back. This time, every Thursday, there'll probably be some better instructions on how to do this live stream, you know, if you all just go and support me, then maybe I can just release to the world for free in real time. But until then, I'll have to put some of this behind a paywall. But I don't know what's coming out next. This is my soft launch month. The first video that I'm going to cut just to get my feet wet is here's how to print on a Simple Pro and how to hook up Octoprint to that printer if you want to kind of get closer to the experience. So I will be doing a video on the Simple Pro using Octoprint and a few little tricks. So nothing incredibly earth-shattering, but there are people out there with Simple Pros that want to use them, and they just need a little help. So that's going to be the first thing. The podcast, go check that out. I don't know what else to say, but thank you. Thank you all. It's good to hang out with you guys. Thanks for putting up with my rambling, and I'm out. We'll see you later. How do I turn this off? I always do this. All right, see you guys.